Hi there folks, hello, welcome to my studio, welcome to today's watercolour demo, 50 Shades of Grey. Let's hope everybody's here just to watch watercolour painting. We're talking about monochrome, and if you've been following me for a while you'll know that grey is a very important colour to me because it's the colour of shadows, and we're talking about a monochrome style watercolour. Now that normally monochrome means using one colour, but we're going to creep in some other little colours, but it will look very grey, but it gives such a different atmosphere. I've got a painting here actually, I'm just going to sort of bring this in. This is a monochrome scene of a night time. This is actually Manchester, this actually. It's a very different atmosphere to what you'd probably normally think to paint, so just working with greys. We shall introduce some other colours into this, and we'll talk about colours in a second or two. Let me know if the audio is okay, folks. Am I loud enough? Am I coming across all right? Yeah, hopefully. I'll keep an eye on the chat. Any questions, pop them in the chat. I'll try and answer them as I go through. Okay. Now, as far as the scene that we're going to paint today, it's going to be a favourite scene of mine. Actually, this is a place in Yorkshire, in England. It's a place called Robin Hood's Bay, and if anyone's been to Robin Hood's Bay, it's a very pretty, picturesque village. I spent lots of childhood holidays there, and I still do. I've got a holiday place that we go to here, and it's such a nice place to visit. And this is Robin Hood's Bay near Whitby in Yorkshire. So we're going to paint a nighttime monochrome of the Seascape, so it's looking out to sea, overlooking these beautiful buildings here as well. So it's going to be a wonderful thing to capture over the next hour and a half, hour 20 minutes, however long it takes, folks. Stick with me to the end. That's important. I want to mention the virtual workshops here before I start painting, folks. I know that lots of you that are watching this, I imagine, have taken part in these virtual painting workshops. Basically, when this lockdown started in the UK, I started teaching these virtual workshops, and so it's in week 15 now, and these are basically me teaching live to you at home. It's like kind of one-on-one tuition, and I'm sure lots of people in the chat here have taken part in these virtual workshops. So if you have, you know, maybe you could tell people, hopefully, that you enjoyed them. We do have a few spaces left, and I mean literally a handful of spaces for this Sunday. Now, this Sunday's virtual watercolour workshop is a poppy field with distant hills and a little white cottage, tiny white cottage in the distance. No sketching. All you need is a sheet of watercolour paper, three colours, primary colours, and 3 brushes. That's all you need for these pictures, and there's no exception with this one. Let me show you some of the previous paintings that we've done on virtual workshops. Here's a couple that I've had framed up. This is a cherry blossom with a street lamp, and this was all taught with people, and it was wonderful to see everybody, you know, take part in this, and it was great to see everybody's pictures at the end on Facebook. So I can't see you, but you can see me. Very, very steady thing to do. Okay, if anyone's interested in taking part in one of these workshops, the link is in the description. This was a favourite of mine, the butterfly on the buddleia. Okay, these are also available as previous workshops. You can buy them if you go onto the website. You can buy the workshop. We're talking nighttime. Well, this is nighttime in Venice. That was going back a long time. Here we've got the beautiful Italian lakes, Lake Garda, that kind of thing. Yeah, that was interesting. Again, no sketching. We've got this gorgeous windmill here, the wildflower meadow. One of the favourites of everybody was the African safari. It was amazing to see what people had produced after, you know. It was really good. I loved it. It's great. Such a nice atmosphere. Stonehenge. We did Stonehenge a couple of weeks ago. This was for the summer solstice, that one. And last week, of course, loved doing this one. We did the beautiful flamingos on the beach. There they are, flamingos on the beach. Now, that happened on the Sunday just past the 28th. So if you do want to get yourself booked in, folks, I'll pop the link in the chat. In fact, Darcy's beat me to it. Thank you, Darcy. Well done. We do have spaces available for that. These are all the previous workshops that we've done. Okay, so these are all the previous workshops. You can see there's such a wide variety of scene. Now I've been teaching watercolours for 22 years this year, so quite a while, and in that time I've taught thousands of people. I've wrote 6 books on watercolour, produced dozens of DVDs and tutorials, but these virtual workshops, I get such a buzz from doing them. Really enjoy doing them. So if you like any of these pictures, folks, you can get hold of these on watercolour.tv. You can buy all the previous ones by heading to the workshop tab, so you can get hold of them. If you do feel that you want to have a go, then there's no time like the present. Get yourself booked in, okay? Now, for this particular picture that we're going to do today, we're talking 50 Shades of Grey, we're talking monochrome, we're talking using a very limited palette of colours. I want to show you the sketch. There's the sketch, okay? I've got it sketched in. I'll leave that on there for a few minutes, so if anybody does want to have a quick sketch. But I need you to remember that what we're doing today is very much a watercolour demonstration rather than a workshop. So I want to paint this thing at my normal demo speed. Now I spend a big chunk of my time travelling the UK, visiting groups and doing demos and talks. So I want to do this thing pretty quickly. Now obviously you can watch this thing back at any time. You know that because it's YouTube. You can do that. Of course you can. It's a great feature. After the live stream has finished, it normally takes around sort of 30 minutes for it to get completely uploaded, but you can watch it back after the live event. The workshops are no exception. The workshops are very different because the workshops actually give you time to actually paint. I'll paint a bit, I'll give you time to catch up and so on. So I don't actually whiz through like this. This is not the same as a workshop. This is very much a demonstration, which is me just painting at my pace. Where a workshop, I'll give you time to work along, okay? And also, if you can't watch the workshop live on Sunday at UK time 10 AM, it doesn't matter because it's yours to keep. Once you've bought the workshop, it's yours to keep and watch back and enjoy it anytime you wish. That's your sketch. It's all sketched in. I started with a horizon line, which is a little bit less than a third. The tall building that you're seeing on the right hand side, that is such an iconic building in Robin Hood's Bay in Yorkshire. That is actually a building that they used to dry and hang the fishing nets. It's very much a fishing village, is this. It's a very picturesque place. And that's where they used to hang the fishing nets. And then at the side of it is the old lifeboat house, okay? So such a beautiful place to visit, gorgeous place to see, and well worth a visit if you're ever floating around the UK, okay? You can't go wrong. Right, let's have a little look at materials then for this picture, because obviously that's important. Not going to be using a huge amount of materials in this painting because we're talking monochrome, black and whites. We may possibly creep a little bit of colour in, and that colour would be a bright yellow, so natural yellow light, just a hint of it to put some light in the windows, natural yellow light, or in this particular case I'm using aureolin or cadmium yellow, okay? Now if anybody wants to do the workshop on Sunday the 5th of July, it's only using 3 colours throughout the entire workshop, okay? Basically what you do is you use natural blue, natural red and some kind of bright yellow. So some kind of bright blue, this is for the workshop, this is this thing here on the 5th, poppy fields in watercolour. You use a nice light blue, so natural blue or ultramarine or cobalt, something like that. A nice red, this particular one is natural red, and a bright yellow. The red could be crimson, it could be rose madder, some kind of light red. And here we've got aureolin, or you could use yellow light or something similar, but a collection of 3 primary colours. But for this picture we're going to use some bright yellow, we're going to use some natural grey or Payne's grey. It's one of the few pictures, monochrome is one of the few pictures where you can use Payne's grey. I wouldn't use it normally, but for this kind of work absolutely fine. So I'm using natural grey, which is my own grey. I want to squirt the colours into this palette here, so we've got plenty of it. I've got a bright yellow, which we may or may not use, I'm not sure yet, because very much these live demos are very much live, you know, and I don't know what I'm going to do until I do it, which is all part of the fun. Brown. Now, if you're thinking 50 Shades of Grey, why is he using brown? Well, natural brown is going to be quite useful for bringing in a little bit of a slightly darker grey. So it's still going to be grey, but just adding a bit of brown into this. In this particular case, it's natural brown. You could use burnt umber. It's very similar. It's going to make the dark darker, and possibly even some white paint. In this particular case, I've got natural white. So a very limited palette of colours. The brushes, not a huge amount. 3 brushes here. I've got a large, medium and small. So we've got, this is a size 20 brush, this one's a 10, and this one's a 6. So 3 round watercolour brushes. All the brushes I may or may not use, we don't know until we do it. Is going to be my own speciality brushes. So we've got things like branch and detail brushes here. We've got tree and texture brushes, really popular brushes, and lift out brushes as well. So I'll talk more about those as we use them. We've got plenty of kitchen paper, we've got plenty of water here as well. So I'm pretty much ready to go. I've got a round coin wrapped in a piece of kitchen paper as well, or paper towel. That's going to stamp the moon in this picture. If you don't get the moon, you can use white paint at a later stage. And if I just pull the camera back to this shot here, and I want to swing the camera to one side, albeit a little bit on the drunk side, can you see a lighthouse here? Now this was a painting, this is one of the videos on Watercolour TV, so if anybody's a member of Watercolour TV, you've got full access to this. That moon was painted in afterwards with white paint, okay, and the reflection was as well, so you don't have to use the coin trick. It does work, but I wouldn't lose too much sleep if you don't quite get it, because it's one of those things that you can't necessarily do. Had a few bookings coming in for the workshop, folks, on Sunday, so thank you for those who are booking. And if you've ever wanted to have a go at painting, there is no better way really, because it really is just a nice pleasurable thing to do. You know, it's just a wonderful experience painting live with me. It's like having me in your room painting. So I encourage anyone to have a go at this. 5th of July, poppy fields, beautiful scene we're going to paint. Okay, enough waffle, and let's get on to some painting. Now I've got the big brush here. I'm going to wet it all. I remember very much I'm focusing on greys and monochrome, 50 Shades of Grey. So it's going to be a nighttime scene, which means I want plenty of darkness, plenty of colour. Now, this is quite a large piece of paper. This is about A3 size. Most people use quarter imperial, 11 by 15 inch. It's a knot surface, which means it's not rough and it's not smooth. It's pretty straightforward, and it's a nice, rich, strong colour holding paper. It really does absorb the water well. So plenty of water, 2 or 3 coats if I'm being completely honest. So you need to cover this thing pretty well if you're going to do this. Now if you're trying to paint along, please bear in mind that I'm going to paint at my speed. This is a demo. If you really want to work along with me, there's no better way than doing a workshop, because I'll give you time to work on those. Okay, so bags of water, completely drenching, not drenching, but you know, putting a decent amount of water on this thing. Now I mentioned using some other colours, we'll get to them, but that's just a little hint in the windows. We'll get to those. Pretty much it's all about the grey. It's all about the grey, hence the title. So straight in with this colour, and it's a twist. So natural grey is quite blue. It's a cold grey. It's nothing like Payne's grey, but you could do this picture with Payne's grey. You could do it in any single colour. CP, you could do it in blue. It wouldn't really matter what colours you use for this, as long as you stick to mainly one colour. So a nice twist. I can bring that over the buildings here. It's all part of the fun of it. This is just the base wash, okay? So it's a twist action, leaving a little bit of light here and there. Now I shall be going much darker than this, as you've probably gathered. Much darker. This is just a background really. I'll bring some of this colour into the water, the sea. Down there as well, horizontal for the sea, and pretty much just cover everything in a base colour. There you go. Nice and straightforward so far. So nice twists. Leave some little light patches, it's always good fun. And then I'm just going to take a slightly smaller brush. I'm going to pick up the 6 actually. And I want to take some of the light yellow that I mentioned, which is natural yellow light or something similar to that. I'm going to take a little hint of that colour. And I'm just going to make sure I've not got too much grey over the windows. I'm going to put some light. I'm going to pop some of that in and let it spread and let it do its thing. So I'll pop some down there as well. So this is the only little bit of colour. This is the only variation, folks. I know I said it's grey, but it's nice to do something different. So just little tiny spots every so often, a little bit of light, and even put a little bit of light on these sort of street lamps, and just let that colour spread. If I zoom in close, you can probably see where the colour's gone in. See the yellow? Let it spread, let it bleed in paint, let it become part of the picture. I'll pop some down here as well, because that will give a sense of light casting across this little footpath that runs right around. It's the coastal path there, and it runs right around the edge. Excellent. That's pretty much all I'm interested in. And then back to the sky. So I'm now making these colours much stronger. Don't be afraid to do this, will you? I mean, that is getting quite strong now. Bloody heck! That's powerful stuff, isn't it, eh? You can smell the fear or the excitement, but it needs it. It needs darkness. We're talking stormy, we're talking nighttime, we're talking rich, powerful colours. There's a stray pubic hair up there. I told you 50 Shades of Grey. A stray hair that's crept in. If that happens, leave them. It'll disappear in the wind, as they say, a little bit later. Don't worry about stray hairs, folks. Stray hairs will just become part of the background. So a nice twist for these here. I'm going to bring these down. I shall put the moon in soon as well. So that's why it's important to be dark, obviously. Let's just bring some more colour down here. So a twisty sort of sky always works nice, in my opinion. Well, it doesn't really matter where the moon goes, to be fair. Well, if I'm going to put the moon on now, actually. So this is a round coin wrapped in tissue. And I'm going to press probably around here somewhere, I think. I'm going to press it quite firmly. There you go. So that's kind of stamped off the moon, as you can see there, on a piece of kitchen paper. That's one of the trade secrets. Don't tell anybody, will you? And then, just to give it that impression as though clouds are hanging over the top of this, I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I'm going to creep a little cloud over the top of that. Not a huge amount, just a little bit. And again, I can pretty much use almost definite thick paint here for this, you know, and I'm not afraid to use strong colours, as I'm sure some of you know if you've ever watched me paint before. I do like richness in colour. Marvellous job. So I'm twisting the brush basically. It's a twist action. And again, if you're doing a workshop with me on the weekend, on Sunday, folks, it's all broken down into lovely detail, so you don't have to be too stressed thinking I'll never do that. I'm going to put some dark down here, because you will. Put some dark down here, and a little bit of dark. The paper's still, which is nice, a little bit on the damp side. So I want to soften all this in a sec. This is all going to become part of the background, alright? Pop some little reflections and things here. You can even get the horizon line just creeping in ever so slightly for the horizon. I'll leave some light where the moon is, but we shall get some light later for the moon. Clean brush, and I want to feather and soften a few little areas of light. So I'm just going to slightly sort of blend them in, and just a touch. I'm not too concerned about this. I'm looking back at the picture here. I'm just going to turn that light. It's reflecting a little bit too much at the minute. That's better. I'm just going to soften these down here. So basically it's the brush through the fingers, and it's simply twisting. Now if I did want to put any more dark in, it's fine. As long as you don't go lighter, in theory you can keep going as dark as you want. I'm getting a bit of extra dark up there actually. Especially as it comes over that moon, you see. Quite effective just there. So it doesn't really matter. If you go darker, you're fine. If you go lighter, you're on sort of dodgy ground. You start to get like cauliflowers and things, if you know what cauliflower is. If you're not, you soon will when you start painting. Just little twists of drama. There we go, beautiful. Clean brush again through the fingers. And literally I'm just wanting to blend or soften some paint, maybe even get a bit of movement in the sky, you know, like rain, sort of dragging the brush down a little bit here. Beautiful. Soften it. The bit where the cloud overlaps the moon, I'm going to use a damp brush on that and just lightly tickle the edge of it, just a touch, just a slither, so it just helps to soften it, just on that corner, just there, and nicely soften, blend and feather. You see, watercolour never really completely dries, so it's quite easy to go back in and just give it a bit of extra soften, give it some softness. But that's a relatively nice, pleasant looking sky there, and yes, it's dark, but obviously as we progress through the picture, it's going to change. It's going to get lighter, it's going to get darker as we go through, and of course that's what this thing's all about. Wonderful. Right, so listen folks, I'm going to give this a bit of a blast with a dryer. It needs a bit of a dry at this point, and while that's drying off, you can have a little look at, this is the hairdryer entertainment over here. We've got a few paintings hanging around. We've got a, let's have a look at these ones here. We've got the nighttime scene of Manchester. We've got Sherwood Forest with the beams crashing through, and down here the Golden Gate Bridge. Again folks, if you do think, oh, you know, maybe I'd like to have a go at watercolour painting, get yourself booked into this virtual workshop. You will enjoy it. All you need is a couple of colours, and remember, one of the great things is we can watch this thing back at any time. You don't have to do this live, because that's not always feasible depending on whereabouts you are in the world. This bit's like watching paint dry. If you got bored with that, let's have a look at something a bit more inspirational. Over here we've got some sunflower scenes. There we go. A nice collection of watercolours for you now. There we go folks, that's nice and dry. It does take a while to dry. A nice cotton paper like this does take quite a long time to dry, but it's dry now. It's got the shine taken off it, which is what it's all about. It's all nice and dry, and we can see we've got the nice rich colours, the strength of colour. Now we're going to work on buildings and distance at this particular point. We're going to really get this thing, we're going to give it some atmosphere now. Okay, let's get close in again to this thing. There we go. And yeah, it's certainly got some drama, that's for sure, isn't it, the picture there? But that's what it is all about. It's all about capturing strength in colour and various things like that. Marvellous. Just going to get the white balance fixed. It's gone a little bit funny. That's not too bad. Okay, so in fact it looks a bit purple to me now actually. better. Sorry, just getting the white balance fixed. Okay. It's a cold kind of grey. Now in the distance, we're going to work in the distance now. So I'm going to get a bit closer in here, folks. I'm going to have a look at this area. So I'm working kind of in the bottom half of the painting. That's the bit I'm interested in at this particular point. So I'm going to work around here now. And I'm actually going to be using some masking tape at this point. Now there's no masking fluid on this picture, which is great, but I want to use some masking tape. This is just a nice quality masking tape. I can take stickiness off, wipe the moisture on the brow. It's not as warm as it was last week. Last week I did the demo. It was absolutely baking. It was absolutely roasting. But it's cooled off a little bit, which suits me. I'm going to pop the masking tape here on the horizon line there, and I'll press that down really well. Now I want to keep adding a few bits to this, and you'll see my logic to this hopefully. So keep popping little bits of masking tape on. Step it a little bit lower as you move down the picture. Over here as well, so that one's getting quite low now. So it's like a step down, and then up the side of that tall fisherman's cottage, which is what it's known as. We're going to pop some masking tape up there. Keep that nicely. Make sure that's really stuck down well, and then we can have some fun creating the distant cliffs overlooking a place called Ravenscar. If anyone knows where Ravenscar is. Now just literally sticking to the grey at this point. That's all I'm using, no other colour, so it's pretty easy when it comes to colour mixing today. Fairly strong with the mix. I want to make sure that it's nice and dark along this bottom edge. That's quite important. So I'm using these colours quite rich, quite strong, and I'm working up and being quite heavy with it. And next to that building as well, quite heavy. So getting the colour in very thickly. Pop a few lines going up just randomly. Then a simple little thing to do is dilute the colour. So I'm just adding a bit of water to the colour. And I can work these up here. So I'm actually dragging the colour out with a paler version of it. So the background's nice and dry. I'm scrubbing the paint so it all kind of mixes together. There's actually a golf course over there, but you can see that, can't you? There's a little hint of that just creeps across here as well, so being a bit cautious there. Bring a little bit over there. Bit of water on the brush just to smooth that down so it kind of fades into nothing. And actually, while I'm talking about that side over there, I'm actually going to take another bit of masking tape and pop that just down the opposite side of that tall building. Because here we've got quite a large collection of buildings, and it's a shame not to make the most of those. So I'm being a little bit cautious not to paint over every little bit, because I did spend a bit of time putting in some yellow, so I don't want to just cover it all in. I'll pop a bit of water there. So that's just a base coat basically. Just want to make sure it's a little bit darker just down that edge. That's quite important there. Like watching paint dry this in, it's going to bring that across. Just keep sort of dabbing the brush on tissue as I do this. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, now if I come over to this side, this mass here, with exactly the same grey, I'm going to start to bring in a little bit of shape and form to this thing. So just bringing a little bit of shadow in. Like I say, I'm working at a very quick pace here because it's a demo, and so if you're trying to paint along, you know, my advice is watch it back. Just watch it first, enjoy it, and then watch it back later on. But if you do have a go at this picture, you know, head on over to my Facebook page, which is Matthew Palmer Artist. There's quite a lot of info on there. I think there's around sort of almost 6,000 followers on that page. There's quite a lot of people on there. There's loads of stuff, loads of resources on there, loads of tutorials that you can check out as well. So head on over to Matthew Palmer Artist Facebook page. It's always good. Always grateful. Smoothing it in. Now I shall put some highlights in this area once it's had a few seconds to dry. Now I'm going to give that just a few seconds to soak in before I do anything with it, okay? So it just needs a little bit of drying time. But what's important at this stage while it's a bit damp is you've got plenty of colour next to the tall building, okay? And then I can carefully take the tape off. Now you do expect a little bit of seepage to creep down the back. Quite often happens, but that's not a major issue because we can work it into the picture. Luckily I've survived the seepage, so you can see it looks more like a scene now, don't it? More, you know, than it was. Now this piece of tape, the long piece of tape, saving the planet here folks, I'm going to pop that just a little bit lower from the lowest point. I'm going to grab a size 6 brush, and with the same grey I've just been using, obviously because it's one colour, you know, you can't go wrong. I just want to slightly extend this here because it's quite a rocky coastline around here. If anyone knows this area, you'll know what I mean. It's the beach at the bottom of Robin Hood's Bay is very much huge boulders. It is. Over here, I'm going to pop that same piece of tape on, and I'll just do a similar thing there to make sure it's got a nice dark. There's always an ice cream van parks on the beach at Robin Hood's Bay, and I don't know how it gets there because it must be a 4-wheel drive thing. I'm just going to pop a little bit of tape just down the side of this little porch. This is the downstairs toilet, and you can tell in a minute because if you look at the window you can see a knitted doll sat on a toilet roll. Now I'm just going to pop that line just there like so. I just want to bring in a few more of these little sort of rocky areas because it's very rocky around here, so it all helps. It depends where the tide is. Can you see what we're doing? And then let's have one couple down here as well. We've got a street lamp there, so we'll be a little bit cautious not to go too much over the street lamp. There we go. And then let's just have another one. Down here. Nice and strong with the colour. Take that away. So it's using it like masking, and that's giving that sort of rocky area. And hopefully you can see we've created a bit of depth as well, which is what it's all about. Just going to pop a little bit of depth over there, and just a few little random lines here and there as I move on. So if we zoom back a little bit, we can see we're creating a scene, aren't we, with an atmosphere. Because you can't beat a good painting with an atmosphere, according to Russ Abbott. Now over here, let's take a look at the palette actually, because that'd be useful, just to see what we've got. So we've got, obviously it's just 50 Shades of Grey, as you can see here, diluting the colour down a little bit, not too much. And then of course back up to the picture. I'm going to pop some little bits of water and little bits of ripple, kind of avoiding where the moon would be even. Last time I did a nighttime scene on YouTube demo, it was couple of months ago, maybe a few weeks back, and someone said it wasn't dark enough for the moon. You know, I was outside the other day, this time of year, you know, 8:30 PM, the moon's out and it's daylight, so I don't know where that comes from, but there you go. What can you say? Wasn't one of you, was it? Just to let you know folks, we have had quite a few people book on for the workshop for Sunday, so if you do want to have a go at this, the virtual workshop is me painting very steady, holding your hand through every brush stroke, and again all you need is 3 colours. You've got your red, you've got the yellow, you've got the blue. The link is in the description, it's also in the chat as well. It's just £10, I mean that's it, and it's yours to keep forever. So if you can't watch this thing live, don't worry, because it's yours to keep. You can watch it back as much as you want. And normally we get around 70% of the people watch it live, but there's people that don't, which is fine, and that's what it's all about. Okay, this, while that's drying off for a few seconds, I'm going to show you some of the previous paintings that have been done. That's the sketch for today's picture. These are the previous pictures from virtual workshops. So we've done 15 so far, live workshops, and honestly, people are absolutely loving them. It's so nice to hear the comments, you know, from people. And we do just have a handful of spaces, and the subject for Sunday the 5th of July 2020 is Poppy Meadow, with that gorgeous golden kind of wheat field overlooking distant fields and rolling hills, and a beautiful white cottage. So well worth having a little think about. These are all your previous ones. These are also available to buy online. You can head on over to Watercolour TV and you can pick those up as well if you want to. Yes, I've just had a quick message come through on email saying, can I show you the sketch? That was the sketch for today's picture, folks. The horizon line is probably a little bit more than a quarter on this particular picture, and that's what we've got to so far. So hopefully taking a bit of shape. It's important to get plenty of darkness in this bottom corner, so I'm just going to keep adding a bit more of this, little horizontal lines, and literally easing this thing back, making the thing disappear away. I've got quite a few monochrome scenes hanging around on my website, and there's a nice one in London, black and white picture and just a red phone box. That's a lovely one to do. And then there's also one of the Charles Bridge in Prague, but that one is painted with skin tones, so that's painted with browns rather than and peachy colours rather than greys. Adding a little bit of extra detail to these things here, but I'm pretty okay with what I've got there. Let's have a quick look over this side of the painting then, folks, around this building here. Look, there it is. It looks as though the lights are on, don't it? But there's nobody home. Now what I want to do here is use the grey, and I want to sort of outline some of these distant. Robin Hood's Bay is a big, huge, steep hill, and there's just a massive, wonderful, classic English Yorkshire Dale cottages, red roofs, but obviously we're not seeing red because we're doing monochrome. And I want to make this thing stand out against the background, so I'm just going to go around it here. I'll pop a few shadows in places, but the first one is just an outline. It's just an outline with a clean brush. Let's get closer in so you can see. A few taps on the tissue there, and just going to basically soften that down into the background here. And we'll work some detail there. We'll spend a little bit of time working in that area now, obviously with the grey. Now obviously we've got the light source from the moon, so we know where the shadows are going to be. So we can start to introduce some shadows, and of course the classic shadow is going to be down here. But this building has got a white top to it, and the bottom is like a stone colour. So I'll get to that in a second. But I just want to start to bring in a few shadows on the opposite side to the moon, the dark side of the moon. So just basically adding little bits of shadow work every so often. Now they're going to get softened in. I'll get as close as I can for you so you can see them. Clean brush, literally dab it on the tissue a few times, and then just use water to soften. Blend it all together, look. There we go. So basically a nice blend, a nice soften. Start to give a little bit of shape and form to it. So you can use, obviously grey is the perfect shadow colour. That's what it's designed for doing shadows. So a bit of negative painting there, which is leaving the positive shape of the roof, but it works. You can see the building, can't you? So like I say, it doesn't really matter what grey you're using for a monochrome. Payne's grey. You could even use black if you wanted to, it'd be fine. But I'm using natural grey because it's my own grey. Lovely. Now I mentioned that the bottom section of this building is actually stone, and I'm going to pop this in next, and then we'll drop some shadows in afterwards. And I'm just going to be a little bit cautious not to go over the window here, because I want to keep the window light on this sort of focal point building here. So I'm going to bring that in. There's another window there, I'll keep that light as well. There's a little building at the side that I mentioned, that can have a little bit of colour on as well. Just going to stop there for a second, get a bit of water, and then smooth it all in. So I'm just using water on the brush and blending it all together, spreading the paint out basically. And I'll put some detail on later on. And I want to make sure that it's a little bit darker next to this. This is the old lifeboat station. I'm not sure if it's a cafe now, to be honest, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to make sure it's dark next to that. It's such a different thing working with a single colour. Totally changes how you work. Up here we've got the chimney, of course. That's going to be in the stone, so that'll be the darker colour. Lovely. And then this building again would have a stony colour to it, so I'm going to take the white away from it, just being cautious not to go over the window here. And they've got the garage door open. Why not? Someone's working on the boats in there. So you can see I'm working around. But I'm conscious where I'm putting the colour, so I need to be keeping a light edge there, because I've just spent a bit of time putting the darkness at the building next to it. There you go. So we can see we're starting to get a little bit of scent starting to come through here. The roof's going to be darker, quite a lot darker. Just a quick revisit over to this side here, just making sure we've got plenty of darkness, and I will put some darker windows in as well. So again, obviously we're just using grey, it's pretty straightforward for this picture, so it's nice just to pop in a little bit of, put some darker windows and things in. You don't want all the lights on, do you? Little spots of grey is enough to give you the windows. Well, this is local to you, Leslie Usher. This is a local scene to you, so you know this scene. Well, I've painted here many times on painting holidays, and it's a lovely place to go if you've got plenty of energy. If you can manage to walk down the hill, you've cracked it. Pop a shadow on one side of the roof there, looking good. And then one of the main shadows, once this is dry, which I think it is going to go straight down here. Straight down this corner, opposite side of course to where the moon is, and then under the eaves of that building. Clean brush, couple of taps, and then just going to use water to spread the colour. I just want to be careful not to paint over the window there. And then also going down here as well. So we're getting that real sense of depth. Love the shadow on here as well, so that corner needs a shadow. Black and white photograph, you know, those kind of monochromatic scenes, and you've seen photographs where people have done things like they've photographed a scene in New York with the yellow taxis, and they've just got everything black and white apart from the taxis, and plus, you know, on the London ones, the classic sort of phone box thing as well. So it's a different thing to try. If you've never tried monochrome before, just try it and just enjoy it. It's a pretty straightforward thing to do as well, because you're not thinking about colour, but you do think about shadows and consistency of paint. So it's a good little learning curve actually. If you're new to watercolours or any medium, it's a good way of learning a little bit more about it. So you can see I popped in a few shadows around there. It starts to look like something then, don't it? Yeah, bloody mess. And then over this side here, who said that? And then up here, if I can get it without splodging any paint elsewhere, that needs a bit of darkness to it. Beautiful, clean brush, couple of taps on the tissue, and going to give it a soften or a blend. So it's the shadow cast by the apex and the building basically. Make sure it's nice and dark under there as well. Pop some little chimney pots on. People often ask me, how do you put smoke coming out of a chimney? Well, you don't. Well, because it's a smokeless zone. But if you did want to do it, 50 years ago, you can use a bit of water on your brush and you basically dampen the area. And you pick up, obviously, in this case, the grey, and you put a little bit. Now, you don't put much on because it can, people get carried away like the chimney's on fire, but a little bit of smoke coming out of the chimney, it gives atmosphere, don't it? You can do those sort of things if you want to. Of course you can. It's your picture, you're in control. Down here, we're going to pop in a lovely shadow. Clean brush, couple of taps, and just going to soften that in. We'll put detail on later. So if we come back a little bit, we have structure. We have structure to the buildings. Stonework, always going to be a thing to think about. Put some lintels and windowsills on these ones here. A couple of little bits of stone. It's actually sandstone around here. Because there's lots of erosion around, and especially at Whitby. If you've ever been to Whitby, which is literally about 5 miles from here, you've been up to the St Mary's Church, which is where the Dracula thing comes from, you might have seen some of those really ancient headstones in the cemetery there. They're starting to really erode away with all the elements that they're exposed to, of course. So little bits of little flicks for stonework, just every so often. I don't want to put it up there, do I? Just helps to give a impression. Now, if there's any windows that haven't got the lights on, like this one here, I can just pop that in. There's a doorway there as well, and also pop in a bit of a shadow, because I want to get it as though it's cast. A little bit of a shadow cast on some of these windows and doorways here. So I like a bit of an L shape. Just going to dampen that brush and lightly soften this. Now this might seem a bit daft from putting a shadow, but it will help to give depth. It'll help to make those doorways go in. So I'm just using a damp brush, almost dry, I have to say that, and it's just lightly softening it in. Same on the window as well. It just kind of helps to ease them in a little bit. Alright. And of course little bits of detail around here. There's a bit of a lintel coming in there as well. It all adds to the picture, as we've said. How are we looking, folks? Are we looking like an old village by night? Looking little bits of windows and things. Super. Painting a bit of a shadow on the inside of these two windows. So a couple of L shapes, clean brush. Just going to use water to soften that grey. So it helps to give a bit of shadow as well, but it also helps to push them back. I will put the windows in later on. Just need to give it time to dry before I do that. Excellent. A few more bookings coming for the workshop, folks, on Sunday. So if you do want to get in, if you're watching this live, it's a good time to get in, and just it's nice just to watch. And lots of people do watch the workshops and then kind of play them back at a later stage. So don't be if you've wanted to, you know, evolve your painting, learn a bit of painting, then you've got the option to do that on these virtual workshops, which is great. Nice. Let's have a look back at the picture. Let's come back a little bit. Looking alright, isn't it? Certainly got the atmosphere. I want to come back to that. It needs a bit of time to try and have a look down here now. Size 10 brush I'm going to use. Still sticking with the grey, obviously. Much heavier. You can see the colour here. Much thicker paint at this particular point. Quite strong colour. And I'm just going to work on this edge here and just put some darkness in. I literally almost use this paint fresh. This is really strong stuff that's going in here along this edge. And there's little bushes here, so I can start to twist. Little bits of twists going in for these little bushes and shrubs. And I'm just going to get a bit of water on that brush now, on this tissue. I'm going to use water to soften this over. So I'm actually smoothing the paint out a bit here. But it's thick paint, and that's the key at this point. Now I've put some light there, some warm light that's cast from the buildings or whatever, so I don't want to lose that, so I'm just going to be a bit careful to sort of paint up to it. And then I want to grab a plastic card from the back of my easel here. I'm going to use this just to pop in some texture. I'm literally scraping off the paint here. Now it's not rocks or anything, it's just texture and shape. Because that is a huge cliff edge there. There's a big drop from here to there. Okay, so that's why it's like that. There's actually a footpath that goes all the way around there. If you ever get a chance to visit, you'll know what I mean. Super, right, okay, so that's fine. I want to make this footpath stand out very, very soon, and I'll pop the windows in with a little bit more detail. Let's get a bit closer in. Excellent. We've not got to the favourite bit as well, which is highlights. They're going to come a little bit later as well, so we shall, of course, get all those in. Now I want to work along the edge of the footpath at this stage. Bit of water. So I'm just using water to bring this across, obviously with it being a grassy area. I want to keep the brush stroke relatively flat. Same over here as well. It's like a gravel path there, so really smooth that across. So this is just a damp brush I'm using now. Get a few shadows and a few little random lines and things coming in. Super. Smashing, that works. Okay, so we've got that nice kind of footpath there, and we'll obviously put more time into this as we go through the picture. I just want to get a little bit closer into the buildings now, because we're going to start to introduce some of the windows. We'll come back to that once it's dry. Take a look back at the picture, we can see it's working nice. Let's have a look over here. And we're using the grey, obviously, but I'm going to fairly soon I'm going to be introducing some brown into the grey, but not just yet, not just yet, but we will do in a second or two. So I'm just going to pop in a few little extra bits of detail to these windows. Now the top two windows need a further shadow on the inside of the recess. Two lines which I'm feathering across to the right. This window wants more of a detail on the sills. Like so. And then if you're careful, if your brush is fine enough, and it's up to you how you want to play this, but you can normally get away with just ever so lightly skimming that impression of the frames, because if you think about it, a window frame with the light on would be very much silhouetted against the light. So a very, very light flick of the brush would just give that impression of that slight little bit of window effect. You want to be careful not to overdo that though. Excellent. I'm just having a little fiddle around with detail. Less is more for this kind of thing. Pop some shadows underneath there. Now, if we take a look at the palette, I'm just going to bring a tiny bit of variation. So we've got the grey. I'm just going to bring a little bit of brown into it, only a touch. It'll still appear grey, but so you could use burnt umber or something like this. This particular one I'm using is natural brown. Just a tiny little bit of it, because it's nice just to get in there and just add little bits of crispness, because if you're using the likes of natural grey, you can't always get the crisp, rich edges that you sometimes want, like down the edge of that roof. And if you do it with that bit of brown, it will, and even across the edge of the footpath here as well, and even a little bit of texture over the footpath as well. It will just help to give a little bit of extra shadow. It still appears grey, but it's just a little bit of extra shadow. That's all it is. And the same on the background as well. If I was to go in right on the base of these, down there as well. See that little bit of extra darkness. It really does make a difference. I'd always say that to anybody. I'm just going to pop this right on the edge of that building just there, because I want to make sure it's a little bit darker just there as well, but I don't obviously want to paint over the building, so remasking with a bit of card is going to help that one. Nice. These rocks down here. There we go. So you can see that little bit of extra, that little bit of brown does work surprisingly well. On these things, and even on the background buildings, if you're careful, you could just pop in a few extra little bits of that colour. Nice. Yes, okay. Now I'm just going to take a slightly lighter version of that same colour. I'm going to pop in the roof. So I'm just going to rotate this board to do this. Find it easier to do it this way. So I've got that slight little hint of brown mixed in with it. Not a huge amount though, just a touch for brown. So it's still, you identify it as being grey. Now if you notice I'm following the angle of it, clean brush on the tissue. Imagine it's been raining, so I could use water to lighten that colour down. Which in my opinion gives a slight reflection to the roof. Same for this one here as well. Bit of water on the tissue first and just drag it down. You know, little bits of lines on the corners of roofs often work well. Turn that back the right way. There we go. Let's give it a nice little bit of interest, and because it's got that slight, that very minute, we're talking a gnat's bottom here, folks. Little bit of brown in that colour. That is what makes the difference, you know, and it does always. But I wouldn't do that in the distance because it's keeping the depth. But you can see it, can't you? It's working lovely. It really is. It's giving that beautiful atmosphere. Hopefully, you can see that. And hopefully, this is something very different that I'm doing today, folks. And hopefully, you're enjoying watching it, because I'm certainly enjoying doing this. I've been doing lots of free live demos over the past 3 or 4 months on YouTube, and hopefully, people are enjoying them. Put some little bits of detail there, and I'll continue. It's same as these virtual workshops. When people keep asking me, will you continue doing these virtual workshops when all this world chaos has calmed down? Well, yes, if people want me to, then of course I will. I'll keep doing them. So make sure things are nice and dark down there. Super. So we've had quite a few people book in for the virtual workshop, folks. If you do want to get in, I want to have a little bit of a break there and give that a few seconds to dry. Let's take a look back at the whole picture. We can see it there. So again, it's worth having a little look at some of the previous ones. And I've got to say, this was lovely to do. Last weekend, the 28th of June, we painted these flamingos on the beach, and this was done live with people. So really, really nice one. And look at the detail. That was all done with the 3 colours, of course. Then we've got the beautiful Moonlit night in Venice. These are all available to buy as well. So if you want to do any of these previous ones, head on over to Watercolour TV and you can get those online. We've got this beautiful Italian lake, sort of Lake Garda kind of thing. The windmill, one of my favourites, I think, actually. I like the windmill. African safari, Stonehenge, and then the butterfly on Budleer. And then, of course, turn it the right way, the gorgeous cherry blossom. So the one we're doing on Sunday the 5th, that is actually a poppy meadow, so poppies in watercolour. A poppy field, a golden field at that, and looking over distant rolling hills in the background. With a little white cottage, tiny little white cottage in the distance. And of course, you know, it's one of those things, if you've always fancied having a go at painting, you know, there's never been a better time, because it's just in the comfort of your own home. There's something different about it, and the atmosphere is great. People are producing wonderful work as well. So there's no pressure, you know. You can have as many goes as you like, of course you can. It's all about just enjoying the whole thing. That's the entire story behind it. How's this one looking, folks? Is it looking alright? Are we happy? I'm liking the atmosphere of it. I love atmospheric paintings. So I want to start to work around here. We've got some bushes and detail is going to go in. And then one of my favourite bits on any painting, and that is removing the light. And I've got to say, adding light to this is a lovely thing to do. Liking that little hint of yellow, you know, you can take that or leave it. It's very much an optional thing. Quick glance at the palette. There's not much to talk about down here actually, but I want to just recap the colour again. It's grey with a little hint of brown, and that little bit of brown is going to make this thing stand out a bit, so it's well worth putting that in. It still appears to be grey, but it's just got a slight hint of it. And then next to it, natural grey by itself on its own. Okay, so a couple of different colours, and that's pretty much going to do. I'm going to kind of wrap this thing up, to be fair. So down here in this corner is where we're interested now. So bushes and shrubs, I'm just going to use a twisting brush stroke for this. I'm just going to take the brush, the brownie colour, I'm just going to twist. You could use tree brushes for this if you've got them, but I'm just going to twist this colour in. I'm going to work it in layers. So that little sort of rose, if you like, you know, of kind of a rows of bushes and shrubs. Number 6 brush is what I'm using here. Now that one wants to be very carefully painted down the side of that little garage thing there. So that's the man cave in there. Then I'll soften all these in. And because watercolour is transparent, when it dries it's quite easy to add more paint over the top. I love how you can put shadows next to a building to make them, you know, pop forward. Super, right on the edge, and even just here looks good. Pop a few little shadows along this edge as it disappears off the page. Super. Excellent. I'm liking the sort of street lamp effect. I don't know whether does that come across on the channel. I'm not sure. It's a hard one to see that, I think, because I can't really see a live feed. I just want to get a bit closer in here, folks, and I just want to use the brownie colour just to bring in a bit of a ridge tile and a few little sort of lines coming down. Always little bits going to make a difference, you know. Crisp darkness every time. Wonderful. I'm just going to bring in a bit of a sort of street lamp or something just down here. A couple of those just disappearing off into the distance. Again, it's just nice to get a bit of interest in there. Just want to make sure I'm a little bit darker on this corner here. I feel that's not quite dark enough yet, so a little bit of extra shadow. Really dark down here. Almost getting to that stage where we want to start to think about highlights, which is one of my favourite things to do on a painting, and I'm sure that some of you know that. There's a bearded chuff sat on top of that thing there. That roof, which is surprising because the Derbyshire normally bearded chuffs, but obviously this one's gone over the border. Yorkshire's not far from here, from where we live, about 20 miles Sheffield, 25 miles Sheffield, something like that. Little bits of extra shadows and things around here. It all helps. It does. It all helps. Loving this atmosphere. Stonework. So little bits of stonework just every now and again. Little flicks of detail. I suppose because I've popped in the street lamps, we should have a little bit of yellow there, I guess. So a little hint of yellow, just to give it a bit of a glow, and even just a touch more yellow over some of these areas would be quite effective. A little hint of yellow, just sort of casting across the light there. Gorgeous. Now let's just kind of wrap this thing up by bringing in one of the most effective parts, and that of course is light. So a few final bits of dark and then some light in the picture is going to work really well. So what I want to do is just bring a little bit more colour into this sea here. Just a touch, little spots and dots just hanging around. A little bit of extra warmth coming in. Super. And then I want to think about putting some highlights in this picture. Now, highlights are going to be done with a lift out brush mainly, because that's really going to give us a nice sense of depth. Okay. And it's really going to put the finishing touch, hopefully, to the picture. Wonderful. Super. Okay, so I'm going to give this a very quick blast with the dryer, folks. So I'm just going to get a hairdryer, give it a very quick blast with the dryer. Again, if you do want to get yourself booked in, now is a good time. I'm down to a handful of spots. I'm talking sort of 3 or 4 spaces now for this, as we've been talking through. So if you do want to have a go at this, and don't forget, you can watch it back as much as you like. While that's drying off, you can be entertained by a snow leopard. A snow leopard in watercolours. There's a full lesson on that on Watercolour TV, so if anybody's a member of Watercolour TV, you can check that out. go, nice and dry. So I've just had an email come in. Someone's saying about Watercolour TV. Well, it's a good time to talk about it, I guess. So basically, Watercolour TV, it's the original video on demand art service. I set this thing up about 12 years ago, actually. And I can show you this on my phone. I know it's a little bit crude, folks, but basically, there's 12 years worth of watercolour tuition on Watercolour TV, and it's free for 30 days. And of course, you can cancel the membership at any time. But this is Watercolour TV, and basically, if you click on video lessons here, there is literally over 500 hours now of tuition. As part of your membership, there's everything from beautiful sunsets. You've got flowers, animals there, and there's a San Francisco thing. So there's absolutely stacks and stacks of video lessons, folks, as part of your yearly or monthly membership to Watercolour TV. And while I'm here, this is the same website that you'd go to for booking a virtual workshop. You click here, Watercolour Workshops, and you can see there is the one, the 5th of July, and here next to it is all the previous ones. So if you don't want to do any of the previous ones, that's the place, and you get an email sent to you with a link, and that's how you get hold of those. All right, just in case someone did just send me an email asking me about that, so that's where that came from. Beautiful. Okay, let's put some finishing touches to this, folks. Let's do probably the most effective part, in my opinion, and that of course is adding a bit of light in the picture. So there's a few ways that we can add light in a painting. One of them is to use a craft knife, and I'm going to scrape off some nice horizontal lines of light, especially where the moon is. So adding a little bit of light in the water is always good. And the sharper the knife, the better for scraping off colour. It makes a beautiful sound as well. Let's get a bit close in so you can see that. There we go. So basically scraping off some light, especially at the base of them rocks. Always looks nice along there. That's always good. And then I mentioned lift out brush. It's basically a square brush that's designed for taking paint out. This is a lift out brush. This is the best one. This is the extra large one. Again, available online, folks, if you're interested in the likes of the brushes. And working around this area here, tiny bit of water on the brush. We're going to put some light in these background. So really going in and putting some light in, and then with a bit of tissue just take it off. Can you see it's just taking a little bit of light, and it's increasing the contrast between the light and dark areas. So you can see how it's creating depth from here to there, and that does make a big difference in my opinion. It always does. And of course I'm focusing this light on the same side of where it's catching the light from the moon as well. And I could do a similar thing here as well. I could put some light into this grassy area to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. Also, if I lighten that little corner there, you can almost go around the bend, if you know what I mean. So light is an essential part of my painting. Even on the roof of these things, if I was to just wash off a little bit of the line and give it a press there, you can see it's put a little bit of detail in that roof there, a little highlight. Same here as well, look, a little bit of light coming down there. Not a bad idea. Bit of a tap. And any other bits you feel you could put light in, so maybe you want to put some on these edges here and possibly coming up from the edge of the footpath. You literally just scrub it off and wipe it. It comes off so easy, and of course it's a good way of kind of correcting problems that you might have in your picture. Not as though you get problems in your pictures, but if you do happen to get a couple of issues, you can wash off paint just as well. And it's very much a non-destructive way of working. It's not aggressive to your paper. This it's a special hair that we developed for this. About 6 or 7 years ago. These are the Matthew Palmer lift out brushes, yeah? This is the extra large one. Super. It's quite addictive as well, to be honest. Give that a bit of a press. Can you see? That's just took a little bit of light out just there. Just brought that little bit of building forward. And if you look at a painting like this over here, that entire painting was done with lift out. So the entire scene was done with a thick wash of natural grey. Once it was dry, the lift out brush created all of the light in it, even the moon as well. Super. And there's one more thing we can do to put some light in, and that's using, I think I've got some hanging around here. Yeah, here we go. This is gorgeous stuff, folks. This is something I always keep in the back of my easel. It's called Aquashine. Can you see this? Now I'll get the focus back. Now it's made by Schminke, and it's basically like an iridescent medium for watercolours. And it's made from gum arabic. Now this one does use mica, so this is very, very nice stuff. Now I love this, and I've been teaching with this for many years. And basically what you do with it is you dunk your brush in it, and if you look at the brush, can you see it's got a sparkle? I'll get the focus back. Can you see the sparkle? Beautiful, eh? And in the reflection of the moon, it will look lovely. Let me see if you can see this. It's not something that you often pick up that well on camera, but we'll see how we go. Now, if I start to tilt this thing, there you go. Can you see that gorgeous? What's interesting about Aquashine is that it doesn't look tacky. It doesn't always stand out. It's basically something that is there at certain times. It kind of catches the light, and that's what Aquashine is. I put a little bit here just to represent a little bit of light on the footpath, and basically you can't always see it because you can't pretty much see anything there. So I do that, and then you can see it. Now on that picture that I mentioned a few seconds ago, the one of Manchester, it was used here. Can you see the effect? I mean, look at it there. You can't really see it, and so it catches the light. And it's the same stuff what they use in like in car bodywork. It's lovely stuff, and I think it's nice. We don't sell it on Watercolour TV, but I'm sure you can pick it up if you look around. It's called Aquashine. It's made by Schminke. I think maybe you can get it online in various places, but a bottle will last you forever. It really will. So a little bit over the street lamps. It's not a bad idea. A little piece over some of the windows just to give a hint of. Works gorgeous on a snow scene. I'll say that to you straight away. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. I mean, some people don't like it. I think it's nice. It's got a Marmite thing about it, is Aquashine. So if you like it, it's there to be enjoyed, basically. There to be enjoyed. It's good stuff. I sell it at workshops, and we do sell quite a lot of it. Now, if you look at what that's created, if I was to sort of grab this here and can you see the light on the water? There you go. Get closer in. It's got to be in the light. It catches the light. You can't always see it unless you've got a light shining. The little bits here on these corners. Can you see on the corner? On the street lamps. It's really effective. Big fan of Aquashine. Love it. Absolutely love this stuff. Really do. Now, just going to come back to the moon for a quick second. And while we're talking about lifting paint out, I'm just going to get a bit of water and just ever so lightly soften the edge, just a touch. Just wipe that with a bit of tissue, just so it's a bit more of a blur. Aquashine adds life. I used it on this picture at the back as well. You can't quite see it from the angle, but it was used on that picture as well. The light coming through the trees on that particular scene. Okay, let's take the masking tape off then, folks, and have a look at this against a crisp white border. So that is beautiful Robin Hood's Bay in North Yorkshire, near Whitby, near Scarborough, Bridlington, those kind of areas. And pleasure to paint that. Loved it. Let's have a little zoom in and zoom out of this thing. Let's start off over here so we can see it nice and close and look at the gorgeous detail we've captured in that little hint of yellow is optional, but personally I think it just adds a little bit of life to it. Very gentle. I'm going to pull the camera back here, take a look back at the whole scene. Smoke in the chimney, the beautiful dark sky, and of course that beautiful moonlit night as well. There we go. Now if you enjoyed that, folks, I know I keep saying this all the time, please do have a little think about booking onto this virtual workshop or even becoming a member of Watercolour TV, because these two things are very important to me, and this, so much time's gone into Watercolour TV. There's 12 years worth of footage there. It's free for a month. The virtual workshops are super. Remember, it's just using 3 colours. You've got your red, yellow, blue, and that's it. For that £10 fee, you can access it at any time, whenever you like. It's a live broadcast at 10 AM UK time, Sunday the 5th, but that doesn't matter. If you can't watch it live, you watch it after. You're joining halfway through. That's the great thing. You can skip it back, skip it forward. It's yours to keep and enjoy. And it's a beautiful poppy meadow. It's a poppy meadow, a golden poppy meadow with beautiful reds looking right into the distance. Footpath coming through the centre, distant rolling hills, and a little tiny beautiful white cottage and tall trees at the back. No sketching, absolutely zero sketching involved. Watercolour paper, 3 brushes and 3 paints, and you've got yourself cracked. So thank you for that. Thank you for everybody that's booked in on one of those workshops over the past 15 weeks. It's been amazing. I've had a great time, and I know that you've enjoyed it. And my Facebook page is a great way of seeing the results that people do. It's about learning the techniques. That's what it's all about. So thank you. Hope you're keeping well, and I'll see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel, folks, and also hit the notification bell for more live broadcasts coming very soon on YouTube. So see you soon. Thank you to Lynn and Darcy for being moderators, and keep well.